Whoa, you guys really sent us down a rabbit hole this time. We're diving deep into Leni Riefenstahl.
Oh, yeah.
This iconic and, gotta say, really controversial German filmmaker.
Yeah, she's a tough one.
Yeah, for sure. We've been looking at this new documentary about her, and honestly, it's a real head-scratcher.
Yeah.
Like, how do we even begin to deal with art that was created under something as awful as the Nazi regime?
Yeah, like, can you separate the artist from all of that?
Exactly. Can you separate the art from the artist and from that context?
It's the question, isn't it? It's been around forever. Like, critics and historians have been going back and forth about it for decades.
Yeah.
Because her films, I mean, especially Triumph of the Will, they are undeniably powerful. Like,
visually.
Oh, absolutely. Technically, they are masterpieces. But you can't get around the fact that they were made as propaganda for one of the most brutal regimes in history.
Exactly. That's what makes it so fascinating, right?
Yeah.
And what's really interesting is this documentary.
Yeah.
It actually uses all this new stuff from Riefenstahl's own personal archives.
Oh, wow.
Like, we're talking private letters, diary entries, you name it.
Interesting.
And there's this one letter where she writes, "I tried to make beautiful films to show the strength and beauty of the German people." And it makes you think, was she just trying to make art? Or was she turning a blind eye to the reality of what was happening around her?
Yeah, I mean, that's the core of it, isn't it? That's the dilemma.
Yeah.
And the documentary doesn't try to shy away from it,
Yeah.
It really uses her own words, her own justifications to try and paint this more, a more complex picture of her.
I see.
And it suggests that she was both this incredibly gifted artist, but also a deeply flawed person.
Yeah.
Who, at the very least, was complicit in all the horrors that were happening.
Yeah. It doesn't just look at her work in a vacuum either. It connects it to the dangers of these far-right ideologies.
Yeah.
And, how propaganda and manipulation are still around today.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we see it everywhere. In our media, in our politics.
Right.
It's really scary. There's this really powerful scene in the documentary. They put footage from Triumph of the Will next to clips from, like, modern-day political rallies.
Oh, wow.
And it's shocking, the visual parallels.
Yeah.
And it makes you think, it's so easy to just recycle these same tactics of spectacle and emotional appeal.
It's like history repeating itself.
Exactly.
And there's this phone call at the end of the film, the review called Prophetic. Can you tell us a bit more about that?
Yeah, so I don't want to give too much away, but it's a conversation Riefenstahl has later in her life, and she's expressing all this anxiety about the rise of nationalism and intolerance. And it's eerie because her words echo so much of what we hear in politics today.
Yeah, it's a bit unsettling.
Very much so.
So let's get back to her films themselves.
Yeah.
Should we appreciate them as art?
Right.
Even knowing everything we know about their context?
It's a big question. I mean, some people say art exists on its own, separate from the artist, that you can judge its beauty and its technique without thinking about the artist's intentions or the historical context.
Right.
But others say you can never separate a piece of art from where it came from, especially when it's something as horrifying as the Holocaust.
So where does the documentary stand on this?
It doesn't really give a straight answer, which honestly I think is a good thing.
Oh, yeah.
It leaves you thinking about it, which is what a good documentary should do.
Yeah, it should make you think.
Exactly. It makes you reflect and face these uncomfortable truths about art and propaganda.
And how easily we can be manipulated.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
For anyone who wants to learn more about this story, you can check out the full review on movieticket.com and their review app.
Great.
But we want to know what you think.
Yeah.
After this deep dive, how do you feel about separating the art from the artist?
Especially in a case like Riefenstahl's.
Yeah, where it's so connected to this dark time in history.
It's a conversation we need to have, absolutely.
And here's something else to think about. The documentary makes this point that even Riefenstahl, with all her talent, couldn't really escape what she had done.
Interesting.
So does that mean that all art is political in some way? Something to ponder?
Definitely. But